Bernard Sanders appeared on The View for the second time, and he was asked to respond to Donald Trump's claim that Bernie should be more outraged in the event the DNC screws him over again. And Meghan McCain followed up to Bernie's answer by asking, should you defend Tulsi Gabbard, who's saying that she, this time, is being screwed by the DNC? I want to share because I have a little bit to say about this.
Yeah. Senator, can I get a little wonky with you? So President Trump, in conspiratorial terms, he recently tweeted that the DNC has already decided to back Biden. He said, look what they did. The DNC is again working its magic in its quest to destroy crazy Bernie Sanders. I feel uncomfortable saying that to you. For the more traditional but not very bright, sleepy Joe Biden, I feel uncomfortable with that too. Here we go again, Bernie, but this time please show a little more anger and indignation when you get screwed. So he's basically saying that the DNC screwed you over last time for Hillary and is going to screw you over again. Do you think that's happening? And if it does, will you have a contested convention?
Well, Meg, let me respond in two sentences.
And I would never speak that.
I know you. I know you.
We have our differences,
when President Trump refers to somebody else as crazy, talk about, somebody in a glass house. So President Trump.
It's called a projection.
Yes.
So you feel like the DNC is in the tank for candidates?
Look, last time around, and this time, my campaign, talked about it with Whoopi, we are taking on the establishment. That's no great secret. We're taking on Wall Street. We're taking on the insurance companies, the drug companies. We're taking on Trump. We're taking on the Republican machine. We're also taking on the Democratic establishment. The difference, though, between this time and last time is, as you will recall, before the first vote was cast in Iowa, Secretary Clinton had 500 superdelegates lined up behind her. In other words, like it's a 100-yard race, she's on the 30-yard line. We ended that. I would go further, but right now, on the first ballot at the Democratic National Convention, no superdelegate will be voting. That's a step forward. Second of all, I'm feeling pretty good about our campaign, and I very much appreciate President Trump's wholehearted concern about me. I know he is being sincere about this.
Yeah. Can I just follow up really quick, though? But Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard is saying she's been excluded from the DNC stage, and she actually resigned, as you know, as vice chair of the DNC last time because of your treatment. Number one, do you think that she was right? Again, I just don't know if getting rid of superdelegates is enough. And do you think it's your turn to stand up for her to be on the debate stage now?
Let me just say this. I would go further. I would ban superdelegates from voting on any ballot. We could not achieve that. We got them off the first ballot, which was a step forward. Tulsi is a good friend of mine. Where the DNC right now had a difficult problem. How do you deal with 20 candidates who are running? Do you have 20 people up on the stage together? Does that make a sensible debate? I think not. So they came up with their approach. I am not a great fan, I should tell you, Megyn, as to how we do debates in general.
Right.
My own feeling would be, rather than giving people 45 seconds to talk about what we do with the crisis of high cost of prescription drugs, we focus on healthcare, we focus on climate change, do it issue by issue, rather than trying to deal with 50 different issues in a short period of time.
So let me just say, first of all, when Bernie Sanders said, when President Trump refers to somebody else as crazy, talk about somebody in a glass house, I thought that was pretty funny. Bernie Sanders, he absolutely knows how to turn the charm on, and that was one of those moments. But essentially, let me just say this. I don't like to give Donald Trump credit for much, but he is right to call out the DNC, because the DNC used the institutional advantages that they have to essentially sabotage and ruin Bernie Sanders' chances in 2016. Now, Bernie Sanders likely wasn't vocalizing his frustration as we all wanted him to, because I'd assume he knew he would run again. But this time, we know he's not going to run again. So in the event something similar happens, they absolutely should be called out by Bernie Sanders, 100%. But the thing about this is Bernie Sanders now has amassed such a large political movement and has made so many inroads within the progressive community that whatever institutional disadvantages he has, he may be able to just still overcome them because he's so popular. Like when it comes to the 2016 election, the DNC did so many little things to undermine Bernie Sanders. they were working behind the scenes to sabotage him. They all hated him. They scheduled debates during times when nobody would be paying attention, before major holidays. Hillary Clinton was in control of the DNC with regard to some financial aspects, and she even controlled their press releases, according to Donna Brazile. Now, I don't necessarily believe that they are doing that this time, although I still worry about that second ballot vote when it comes to superdelegates, but there's no point in worrying right now because we don't know what's going to happen. Bernie Sanders ideally could win enough to where, there's nothing that the DNC can really do. I don't want to think about that yet, but I do think that, if Bernie Sanders were to be screwed, hypothetically, this time it would make more sense to just blast them because you have nothing to lose now. You're not going to run for president again. But the real reason why I wanted to talk about this is because Meghan McCain surprisingly brought up a good point. This segment is weird. I'm giving Trump a little bit of credit, and I'm saying Meghan McCain made a good point. What kind of world are we living in? But she said, Tulsi Gabbard is kind of being screwed right now. Why isn't Bernie speaking up? And I wish Bernie Sanders would come to Tulsi Gabbard's defense. He brought up the point that there's a lot of candidates, so it's difficult for the DNC to coordinate debates in a way that's fair. And I understand that. They laid out the criteria before the primary began. The issue, though, and what I would have wanted to see from Bernie here, the ideal response would be, you know what? Tulsi Gabbard is right that the DNC should be more transparent, and I'm going to echo her call for greater transparency, and I'm going to ask them to release the criteria they use to determine which polls they're going to use, because it seems completely arbitrary currently. And given the DNC's history, they need to prove to us that they aren't cherry-picking polls in order to marginalize certain candidates who they don't like. Because think about this. To have Tulsi Gabbard excluded, yet Julian Castro and Amy Klobuchar will be attending, it's madness. It's absolute madness. Tulsi Gabbard has far more support than Amy Klobuchar or Julian Castro. So the fact that she's asking for transparency, it's only the most reasonable thing imaginable. So since Tulsi Gabbard spoke out in Bernie's defense in 2016, I'm disappointed that he didn't speak out in her defense now. It feels a little bit frustrating, and if you're a Tulsi supporter and you're disappointed, I do understand. This is frustrating. I've been in your predicament before. I understand how you feel. This is disappointing, and Bernie Sanders' answer there wasn't sufficient. But if I had to guess, it seems like Bernie Sanders is walking on eggshells because he doesn't want to piss off the DNC because, again, they have a lot of things that they can use, institutional tools at their disposal to where they can really fuck him over if they truly wanted to do that. Now, is it the case that the establishment prefers Biden to Bernie, or pretty much anyone but Bernie, with the exception of maybe Tulsi Gabbard? Unquestionably. But the thing is, if you become so popular and you now have the name recognition and 1 million volunteers on the ground, they can only do so much to hold you back, right? So this situation is incredibly frustrating, and this is bound to happen. The DNC has not earned the trust back of voters. So, for Tulsi Gabbard supporters to say there should be more transparency, I totally think that that's fair, and I understand their frustration.